Hello and welcome to our conversation on cost accumulation. The focus of this particular presentation is to understand the impact of inventory on cost. When we say inventory, it may be raw material, it may be work in progress, or it may be finished goods. But the focus of this particular presentation is more on the work in progress. So in work in progress, we say that it's also called incomplete units, unfinished goods, or the degree of completion is not 100%. In case of finished goods, the degree of completion is 100%. So whenever we come across this concept of work in progress in the conversation or in the question, we need to understand a term called equivalent units. Equivalent units is used to calculate, to apportion, to distribute the cost among the units produced and units partly produced. But what is equivalent units? Equivalent units is the notional number of units substituted for actual number of units based on the degree of completion. So equivalent units is equal to actual units into the degree of completion. An equivalent unit concept is not based on the value or the money value or the cost value, but the equivalent unit is based on the operation, the level of the work done, the degree of completion of the work done, not on the amount or the value. So let us understand the impact of equivalent units along with the impact of the other inventory on the cost sheet. Whenever you see inventory of raw material will affect the cost of the material consumed. Cost of material consumed is purchased during the period, add opening stock of raw material minus closing stock of raw material will give me cost of material consumed. The inventory of work in progress will affect the manufacturing. Some amount of manufacturing cost might have been incurred there. So it affects after the prime cost, before the product cost. So there is a variations there. No? There is some amount of subjectivity, some assumptions can play a role in the position of the amount of work in progress. But for the purpose of this exercise, we'll take add opening stock, less closing stock. We'll get the product cost of goods manufactured during the period. So this opening work in progress means in the previous time period, you have already done some work. So we are working on that first. So we are following a conventionally accepted assumption of first in, first out. So throughout this presentation, at the back of our mind, we'll have FIFO for the purpose of inventory valuation, whether it is raw material, whether it is work in progress, or whether it is the finished goods. So this is the crux of this particular exercise. We want to understand how to value the closing work in progress. What is the impact of work in progress on the cost? Then add the non-manufacturing overhead. You will get total cost of the goods manufactured, and add and adjust the cost of finished goods, opening stock of finished goods, and less closing stock of finished goods. You will get total cost of goods sold. So this is a template that we are going to use. Unless specifically mentioned, we are going to use FIFO, and we will stick to this particular template. But let us understand, let us see a question, information, exercise for that. So for example, this is the cost information of a product for the month of October. During this month, the company purchased raw material, and there was already an opening stock of raw material and closing stock of raw material. And then they've incurred labor. direct expenses. They've incurred manufacturing overhead and some non-manufacturing overhead. The other information about the inventory is the work in progress. You see this, opening work in progress is 200 units, 20% complete. What does that mean? That in the month of, previous to October, at the beginning of October, we have 200 units which are getting into the production of October, which are 25% complete. Because we are following FIFO, we would like to first complete this 200 units, complete the balance work left, 75% during this period in the month of October. So 42,000 rupees was spent in the previous month to complete 25% of the work. And by the end of October, we have still having 400 units work in progress. And the amount of work done is 50%. So, but what is the value of that? What is the cost of that? That is the important question for this exercise. Finding the value of the closing work in progress. But observe this, how much work has been done on this 400 units is 50%. And during the period, our current production is 1,000 units, 100% complete in every respect. But let us understand this 100% bit more clearly. This 1,000 units which are produced in the month of October, because we are following FIFO, this 1,000 consists of 200 from the previous time period, that is opening stock, I'm working first, then 800 of the current month, okay, of the current month. So therefore, if we don't follow FIFO, then this will not happen, right? We are saying that first we would like to complete the 1,000, complete the opening stock, then go to the new material to start de novo. And there is also opening stock of finished goods and closing stock of finished goods. So let us now start working on it. So the purchases during the period, during the month of October, is equal to 5,000 units, 5,000 kgs, okay, 5,000 kgs. So purchases during the period is 5,000, okay, at the rate of 55. So the value of purchase is 275,000. And we'll add to that the value of the opening stock, which is 1,000 at the rate of 50. And because we are following FIFO, the closing stock of 500, which is there with us, will be valued at 55 because we are using FIFO. So the value of the closing stock, the money value of the closing stock is 27,000. So the cost of the material consumed, therefore, is the opening stock plus purchases minus closing stock. How much material we use during the period? The material used during the period is opening stock plus purchases minus the closing stock, the quantity of raw material used during the period. Okay? And during the month, the labor expenses is 75,000. The direct expenses is 25,000. So the prime cost is equal to 309. So in the month of October, 397,500 has been spent as prime cost. And then we have spent manufacturing overhead of 100,000. Now here comes an important question for our consideration. What is this 49,500 spent on? Did we spend this money on 1,000 units that we produced during the period? Did we spend this money on 800, which is complete in every respect during this period? Or did we spend money on something else? So therefore, because there is a work in progress, what is the value of this closing work in progress? The value of the opening work in progress, we already know. It's given. Huh? The value of the opening work in progress is already mentioned. But what is the value of the closing work in progress? Should I divide it by 497,500 by 1,000 into 400? It's inaccurate costing. Therefore, as a working note, we will prepare the statement of equivalent production using FIFO. What will the statement of equivalent production have? It will show what all are the various types of inventory: opening work in progress, closing work in progress, and finished stock. The statement of EP is only for WIP. And actual units of these three are already, we have seen that 200 units of opening WIP, 400 units of closing WIP, and actual production started from zero or de novo is 800. On this, what is the work done, the degree of completion? The degree of completion of the last time period, DOC is the degree of completion. What is the work done in the last time period? September, okay, in this case, because this is month of October. So for opening work in progress, the work done is 25%. So what is the work done in the current period? CP is the current period. Because we are following FIFO, we say that first we want to complete the opening work in progress. Therefore, I have to put in another 75% of the work. Then it will be complete in every respect. And this brings us the concept of EU. EU is equivalent units. EU is equal to actual units into EU is equal to actual units into the degree of completion during the period, current period. So 200 units into 75%. On closing work in progress, did you do anything in the month of September? Answer is of course no, right? We have not done anything in the last time. And how much work has happened in the current period? It says 50% complete. 50% complete. So what is the corresponding equivalent unit? 200. So what is equivalent unit? Is the notional number of units substituted for actual number of units calculated on the basis of the degree of completion. And what about the finished goods? On this, we have 100% work has happened in the month of October. So what is the corresponding EU here? Which is same as actual. AU is equal to EU. Why? Because entire degree of completion in this month is 100%. But observe this is 800 because we are using FIFO. So out of 1,000, we worked first on 200, then we worked on 800. So total production during the period, total finished product at the end of the month of October is 1,000 units. But how many physical units are there? The total number of physical units there in the store or go down, whatever you say, is 1,400, right? 1,400 consists of 1,000 complete in every respect and 400 50% complete. So what is the corresponding EU of this 1,400 AU? Is 1,150. And this is an important number for us because on this unit, we have spent this 497,500. Let me elaborate that. So 497,500 has been spent on converting opening WIP into finished product. spent on closing work WIP to the extent of 50%, and spent on finished product during the period 800, 100%. So therefore, per unit cost using the equivalent units is 432.6. Okay, we will use that number. So this 497,000 has been spent on opening work in progress, closing work in progress, and finished goods. So therefore, we'll have one more statement. We'll prepare one more statement as a working note. We call that as a statement of cost allocation. This cost allocation on what? Cost allocation on opening, cost allocation on closing, and cost allocation of finished product. Okay. So we know this for the consistency's sake. The actual units are 200. The corresponding EU is 150. Okay, corresponding EU is 150. So we just picked up from that table. Okay, we just picked up from that table. What is the cost per unit of this equivalent unit? Is equal to 432. Okay, is equal to 432.6. So therefore, the corresponding cost allocated to the opening work in progress during this period to complete that and make it finished product is 64,891. The cost per unit for closing work in progress is same. So the amount spent on closing work in progress is 86,522. And the amount spent on the finished product is equal to 340. The summation of this is exactly 497. Summation of this is 497. So 497,500 has been spent on opening WIP because of FIFO, spent on closing WIP to the extent of 86,522, and spent on complete finished product during the period up to the extent of 346,087. So the cost of closing work in progress, therefore, for us is equal to 86,522. Okay, or I can pick up from here itself. Okay, so that because we already evaluated that. So the cost of the goods manufactured, during the period is equal to 452,978. But would you like to verify whether this is correct or not? We can verify that also. Okay, the verification is just to see how did we get this 452? As we have already assumed that we are following FIFO, so 1,000 consists of 200 and 800. On 200, the previous period, in the previous period, we have spent 42,000. In the current period, we have spent 64,000, right? On this 200, we have spent in the month of September 42,000. We have spent on September 42,000. In the month of October, we have spent 64,000. So on 200, we have spent 106,891. On 800, previous period, nothing, right? Because we have not spent anything in the previous. The entire money spent is during the current. The summation of this is equal to 452. So 452 is the cost of that 800, okay, 1,000 units that we have produced during the period. So 1,000 unit that we calculated in this exercise by using an assumption of FIFO. We can deviate from that, but for the time being, we'll stick to that. The rest are very straightforward. So add non-manufacturing overhead, we get the total cost of goods manufactured. The total cost of goods manufactured is 502. Then Just like any other inventory, add opening stock of inventory, 45,000 is given here. We can see that is 4,500 units at the rate of 450. So we have, okay, 100 units at the rate of, so per unit cost is equal to 450 given. And the closing stock, how much is the closing stock? We can see that, okay? So the current sales is 900, current production is 1,000, the opening finished stock is 100, so 1,100 is the stock available, minus the sales is equal to, so we know this, that opening stock plus production minus closing stock, okay, closing stock is equal to sales, isn't it, in the units? So in this case, the sales are given, so we can derive closing stock. So closing stock in this example is 200 units. But what is the price of that? What is the value of that? The value of that, we are following FIFO. So therefore, the current cost will be used. The current cost will be 503. Okay, because we are following FIFO. The value may change if you want to deviate from FIFO. So the value of the closing stock is equal to 1,596,000, and the cost of the goods sold, the unit sold is 900, and the cost per unit is 497,000. The focus, as I mentioned, the important part of this exercise is this one. Okay, is about the inventory valuation of work in progress. And for that, this concept of equivalent unit has been introduced. Equivalent unit is a notional number of units. Now observe this cost for a minute. So the cost per unit is equal to 436.32.6. This will completely depend on the degree of completion. Okay, if the closing work in progress will increase, if the degree of completion goes up, then the cost per unit will go down, and vice versa. Let us observe that. Suppose the closing work in progress work done, let us go down. Let us see. Suppose I'll say that all other things remaining constant, the closing work in progress, the degree of completion is 90%. Observe, the cost per unit has come down. Why? That means same 497,000 is now spent on 1,310 equivalent units. In this case, same 497,000 was spent on 1,150 equivalent units. So why did the equivalent unit change? Because the degree of completion has changed. So the degree of completion and the concept of equivalent unit will have a huge impact on the cost per unit. And keep a watch on that. Wherever there is a work in progress, you have to calculate or at least keep in mind this concept of degree of completion. If degree of completion is not there, of course, there are other assumptions, uniformly distributing the cost, which we'll examine in another exercise. So we made two assumptions, that we want to follow FIFO, and because we want to follow FIFO, we can find the inventory working progress impact by using the concept of equivalent units. So the inventory valuation, therefore, or in the presence of inventory, will have a huge impact on the cost per unit. And within the inventory, the presence of work in progress always creates a problem. So the objective of this presentation was to explain the impact of inventory in general, and work in progress in particular. Thank you very much.